We have our intended players ready to go. Sounds like they're actually starting or on the verge of starting. We're going to watch Izzet Bullwinkle versus Warren Regni here in round 6 of 8. And they did, in fact, not wait for us. Okay, so.
How rude.
Well, yeah.
It looks like a lot of things already went down, but...
Yeah, it sure does. Well, it's actually probably turn 1. It's just that Warren did a lot. Warren Regni on Mono Blue 8-cast, or the 8-cast deck as we refer to and saw earlier today, versus Izzet Bullwinkle on Izzet. It says control. That's self-submitted. It's really basically like most Izzet Murktide lists.
We're probably going to talk about this during sideboarding when we have a little bit more time.
Mhm.
But I don't know, Joe, if you've been following this, but the last 2 weeks have been like a big discussion with Issac and his takes in the middle. Because he has a very different take on the deck that he's playing, or rather on Delver. And he's very, very vocal about that this is not Delver, which, I mean, it is not. It's not even playing Delver in the first place, and it's also like playing a much slower game. But before we get into that, let's just like catch up where we are. It looks like Emry was cast in the first turn. Issac tried to fold it, and it looks like Warren protected it with Force of Will pitching Thought Monitored. So on Issac's side, we get new Legacy All-Star Ledger Shredder down, immediately followed by a Bauble, so we get to loot. And of course, Warren is probably looked to, in the long run, either get a Thought Monitor back or even a Kappa Cannoneer, because that's not what you want to see on the other side of the board. But to just very generally go about the strategy. So what Issac is doing is he wants to play a slower game. He wants to play a more controlish game. And in the article he actually just released yesterday, he talks about that he has never experienced a degree of agency as big as in a deck that he's currently playing. And that was like a problem he was trying to solve. And he feels like he kind of solved it. I mean, as close as you get to solving something in Magic, I guess.
Yeah, this is a very unusual list. Like you're saying, he's got shredders, and we saw other players that did not have shredders, like Bernal. He also has predicts in the deck. So going for more card advantage, as long as he can set them up with Brainstorm and Ponder. Interesting to see how this plays out. And Warren's deck is a more, well, standard may not be the right word, but typical 8-cast deck here. Bunch of cheap spells, a bunch of draw twos, and then Cannoneers to finish things off. Here is a Retrofitter Foundry. A ways to go before that Thought Monitor in this graveyard can be cast, but
yeah, once you get enough mana.
Yeah, Chalice for 1 though. It's pretty solid.
Yeah, it comes to Chalice, but in response we get to loot again. Depending on what we discard, our bird might even get bigger. No, it looks like we're going to discard a land. What is it? Yeah, it's going to be a land. Still, we probably like get to keep something else. And playing this deck, you can play surprisingly well, like through a Chalice on 1. Like it's not great because like all your cantrips are still going to be locked down, but you have Murktides, you have Letter Shredders, you have Brazen Borrowers, you have Expressive Iteration to dig deeper into the deck, and with our threat already in play, I mean, yeah, you'd prefer for the Chalice not to be there, but it's not nearly as lights out as it used to be against servers in the past.
Sure. Okay. Well, we'll see how he handles it here. It is nice to have card drawing you can play, and actually the Petty Theft is in hand, so he already has a way to get the Chalice off the board temporarily whenever he gets around to it. This Expressive Iteration reveals a land and 2 1-drops. So Issac will only be able to bounce the Chalice once. So if he can't counter it on the way back down, he's going to want to unload as many 1-mana spells as he can during the window when it's off the board.
Yeah, makes sense. I'm really excited to see him play this because he's been doing really, really well with this. And like he's basically putting his money where his mouth is, or yeah, this way. And that's always exciting to me. Like when people talk big, but like basically, how do you call it? Like you got to talk the talk, but then you got to walk the walk. And Issac has been certainly walking the walk recently.
Okay, so we see this iteration. The Lightning Bolt goes to the bottom, as it can't be cast yet. I'm sorry, Lightning Bolt went to hand. I think the creature went to the bottom. Steam Vents gonna make its way into play. Probably tapped.
I mean, there's not really a reason to play it untapped, right?
Right.
Unless you're like playing around some. What, really? Okay, now I'm curious. I guess the only way is if you want to run it out. So yeah, so you can cycle.
This takes a lot of experience to be comfortable making a decision like this, where you're just throwing a card away in order to connive.
Yeah.
Extra Shredder is tossed, and across for 3. We're still in the early game. Warren's life total plenty high, but gotta get started somewhere. So Issac does come across, and Ancient Tomb to draw for Warren, which is going to unlock some of the more expensive spells in his graveyard.
You know, it could be a case where Issac is just like trying to finish the game quickly, even though that's probably not going to work in the face of Retrofitter Foundry. Oh, and we're just like, tap all my things, make the big turtle. Yeah, loot again. And this time we're probably going to discard something and try to force it. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is
But of course, that's going to happen next turn again.
Right. It's the tempo play for Issac because this is going to continue to happen.
I mean, you can keep playing the tempo game, right? On the other hand, you can't bounce it with Petty Theft unless you have like significantly more mana. You could try to bounce the Emry to basically keep it away for another turn if you really just want to play that tempo game.
Yeah, or maybe you Petty Theft the Chalice and bolt the Emry. I mean, that's...
If you have another bolt, that's the perfect play. Then you also get to loot again.
Yeah.
Like if you like this indicates to me that you probably have a bolt then.
Yeah, he drew one for this turn. So that is an option.
Okay, so this one is on an adventure, it seems. Or does he keep his adventure cards like on below his lands? That would be cool. Okay, never mind. Okay, now we're gonna do this. Yeah, loot again, and then probably attack you for something like 4 this turn, depending on what we discard. Down to 12.
Nope, still 3. All right, so Emry's down, Shredder across, and now Warren. Well, Warren's gonna need to do something here. Ooh. And Misty Sanctuary puts Expressive Iteration back on top of the deck.
And if Warren has enough time, like he can try to like make a flyer every other turn, but of course that's gonna tie up his mana quite a bit. And Issac is gonna be able to deal damage to him every other turn. And yeah, I honestly like he doesn't even probably care about all that much about Chalice. Oh, and we just okay, of course. If we loot with just a single card in hand, we just grow the Shredder.
So that the Chalice is on 1. That die is just misplaced for the moment. But Warren is out of action completely.
Yeah, we take 5 here. That's a land. Doesn't matter. You probably keep that land in hand, I would guess, because if we loot on the opponent's turn, then if we want to, we can discard the land.
Okay, this is a very expensive Retrofitter activation as it costs 2 Lotus Petals.
Dude, I love it. Like, it looks like Issac, when we talked about it, right? Figured, okay, this is gonna be a tempo game. I'm not gonna outgrind you. I'm gonna like throw away my bolt into the Chalice just so I can loot again, make my bird bigger, and try to get there in the air. And it looks right now like he almost might be able to get there. Like Warren is gonna be able to have a jump blocker next turn. But from there, oh, we have a flyer as well. Huh.
Yes, indeed.
The adventure is over. Brazen Borrower is real now. I just sent them in.
Okay, so token will you can flying trade with the borrower. All right, that's decent. Warren still needs a lot going on here. Ancient Tomb will put him to dead from the Shredder. Otherwise, he's got 1 additional turn, but he's going to need to draw. Let's see how many artifacts are in play right now. Looks like 4. So Thought Monitor is still going to cost 7.
Chat is mentioning Warren might have missed a Bauble trigger. I think, yeah, he had like Urza's Bauble that he ended up not drawing. I'm not sure. But I think that might have actually been the case. I'm not sure. Okay, so what are we looking to draw here? We need something like Thought Monitor, right? That would be something.
Ether Spellbomb? That's not castable.
Well, it's castable.
Well, sure. Yeah, it's not resolvable. Yeah, exactly. Right. It's not resolvable. Okay, good point. Yeah, so that's gonna be a pass. So Warren can block again this turn. And that'll be it. For that.
Make that
okay, he's able to make the 4/4 this turn, I believe. I'm not sure. No, I'm wrong. He just had to graduate into the flyer.
Okay, now I'm not even sure if we can still. I probably still can cast a Thought Monitor. We got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Down to 1 life or something. Oh, we even have a Thought Monitor in hand, so
Right.
can
It
we
just
actually
came
cast it
up.
if we tap out?
It costs 4. Yeah. Yeah. It looks like it can be played.
Oh, we don't need to tap those. This is straight up affinity. Of course, Daze would do it here.
Yeah, almost anything would, but it does resolve, and 2 lands are drawn there. That's not going to do much good.
Yeah, at this point you can just like literally put away your Ancient Tomb, just so you don't even consider using it.
All right, attack, jump lock. Isaac, nothing to add to the board. So, Warren, if you draw the 4th one,
Chalice,
that would be
that's not
effective.
it.
Nope. Okay, and that's gonna. Well, maybe not.
Oh,
Yeah.
there's nothing.
All right. Warren reconsidered whether he was going to be able to survive in the turn. The answer was no. Isaac Bullwinkle picks up game 1. And now let's go look at the sideboards, and we can take a look at this Isaac Bullwinkle blue-red Murktide deck, which is a little outside the realm of normal.
Yeah. He tried a couple of different names for it. Izzet is probably gonna offend him if he keep using that, but that's actually been a discussion on Twitter. But let's look at the sideboard, and the sideboard has some serious hurt. The sideboard has 2 meltdowns. I could even see counterbalance coming in to deal with a bunch of the 0 drops. I'm not sure if that's like what you really want to be doing in the matchup. It depends on like part of like who you think like who's the beatdown, all that kind of stuff. So it's probably too slow, especially with like the more expensive stuff later on. But who knows? Like Isaac has figured this out, I would guess. But yeah, the meltdowns, Pyroblasts, probably I could see Force of Negations, even though usually like you want to use the Force of Negations to protect your meltdowns, and that doesn't work. Maddening Hex, probably, right? Like there's gonna be so many artifacts flying all over the place, and if you take like 3.5 damage every single time, that sounds like an all-star card for the matchup.
Yeah, so I was thinking of that too. I mean, obviously, everything in Warren's opening hand is likely to be on the board before Maddening Hex gets deployed, but still, there are so many draws, so many cantrip artifacts in Warren's deck that this Maddening Hex can have a big sway on the game. I think even if it doesn't come down till mid late game.
You know what I also see in the sideboard? And it's kind of cool that we get to see this exact matchup. I was wondering, why is there a Pyroclasm and not the Rough Tumble like we usually see in Delver? And of course, this is not Delver, just to iterate again. Do you know why we have Pyroclasm here?
Oh, I thought you were going to tell me. You're asking me, huh?
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward.
Okay, so I have to think about this. Let's see. Rough Tumble does 2 on the ground or 6 in the air, right?
Exactly, yeah. I mean, I'm gonna help you out here. We can like board this in against Delver and take out their Delvers while none of our creatures die to it.
Okay. Oh, that's very cool.
That's really cool. And the other thing, like the thing I initially came up with, but I think that's much less of a reason, is technically we could bring this in against 8cast to take out all the side tokens because those fly too. I don't think that's good enough of a reason to bring it in, but it's a difference. But yeah, I like how this is like a smart choice where you be like, you know what? I can just like play Pyroclasm instead of Rough Tumble, even though people would like default to Rough Tumble. But in this deck, Pyroclasm makes more sense.
That is an excellent point. All right, let's take a look at Warren's 8-cast deck real quick. See if it's actually 8-cast or perhaps 7 or 6. It looks like it's the full 8. All right, we've got a True Believer this time. And you see the other company cards there are the 2 size like you were talking about.
Yeah, but nothing like that's the case with most of these 8-cast decks. There's usually nothing too super exciting in the sideboard unless it's like super dedicated head, like you see Hercules Recall here for the mirror. We probably bring in, I would guess, Force of Negations because we really have to fight over the meltdowns. Those are like a huge pain for us. But other than that, you could bring in like Soul Guide Lantern to like stem the bleeding of something like Dragon Rage Channeler, or try to deny Murktide Regent for a while, but not too excited about most of those cards.
Yeah, it doesn't seem great, does it? All right, so let's go ahead and go back down and see if Warren can pick up game 2 on the play.
Looks like we got a Chalice of the Void in hand. Maybe we're gonna be able to make. Actually, this looks to be a Lotus Petal on the very left, so we could technically make a Chalice for 1 in the first turn.
That's probably worth a pedal, and Warren looks like he agrees. Yeah, I was gonna say we need an explosive start. Oh, actually, there's a Mox, so it doesn't even cost the petal. That's excellent. And there's a Force in hand in case there is a meltdown.
But there's also an Emry. We could also make Emry on the first turn.
Well, isn't that nice?
I like it.
So let's see. Chalice for 1. Yep. Emry into play.
There's a meltdown in hand for Issac.
And a Force. Okay, so no, wow, the Force back.
And completely out of cards.
Yeah, Warren
Nice.
is all in on this Emry. So this
is my first turn. I'm gonna dedicate everything I have to this Emry. And yeah, Issac doesn't really have much to stop it, at least right now.
Did we forget the Emry trigger?
It looks like we did. Oh, that's oh, that's horrible. Oh, now we can only get back the Lotus Petal. Oh, I'm so sorry for Warren.
That's, yeah, that is unfortunate. That is a fairly significant error. Yeah, Emry, when it comes into play, you mill 4 cards. Yeah, Warren missed out on that one. So Issac does have the meltdown, so he's got a couple turns to develop here. And
yeah, basically, as soon as Issac hits the second land drop, well, I guess that gives Emry something to bring back from the graveyard then in the Mox and the Chalice eventually.
Okay, Warren has just realized that he forgot to mill. Head in the hands a little bit here. He drew another Emry off the top, looked at the one in play, and then realized what happened.
I guess if you drew one off the top, then you can still like cast that to get the additional mill 4.
You can. Yeah, you can. He's now pointing out, well, this is something that can happen. Judge being consulted. This is not actually going to be a penalty. This is just going to be a missed trigger. And Warren will just have to recompose himself. Warren will just have to accept that he missed that and move on and try and
yeah. I mean, this is what it is, right? It's this is just like the game you have to win from this spot. I mean, it's not ideal, far from ideal, but I mean, yeah, you get back the Lotus Petal. You probably honestly play the Emry, but if you were gonna play the extra Emry, then you would have probably done that before you get back the Lotus Petal.
Okay.
Also, chat is like saying, "How is this guy 5-0?" I mean, seriously, like even the world champion makes mistakes, so cool down about that.
I mean, yeah. Everybody has games and matches that they regret. That is not something specific to Warren Regni. We've all done that. Here is the meltdown for 1. Going to clean up more or less everything.
But only Emry stays. But yeah, now Emry can slowly rebuild, right? I mean, this is basically what we are doing. Like, so, okay, so what do we want? We want to draw a land here so we can... Okay, that's not a land.
All right, that's
if we had drawn a land here... Yeah, I was just like saying if we had drawn a land here, we could have immediately made the Chalice for 1 again. But yeah. It looks like Issac will probably Pyroblast or rather Mental Blast the Emry here. I've seen a Pyroblast in hand. It's probably like a smart move to do.
Yeah. But getting this Brainstorm out of the way, not too bad either. Wanting to do as much as he can before Chalice might make his way back onto the board. But certainly Issac has been given a little bit of a gift here as far as Warren slowing down his development. One more note for production. I believe we have Isaac's first name spelled wrong. I believe it's 1 S and 2 A's.
See, even we make mistakes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Warren forgets the mill 4. Question in the chat is that why wasn't it rewound? Is not a must trigger. There are no beneficial must triggers. If a trigger is beneficial, you are capable of forgetting about it.
Yeah. Like stuff I think that the way it used to be handled is they give your opponent the choice whether they want to put the trigger back on the stack.
Yes, that is correct. And so
okay.
So we're here with Underwater. Here's the Emry, or here's the second Emry.
I mean, this is for as bad as it is, it's surprisingly like we are far behind, but it's not crazy, I would guess. So
I suppose if Issac only has 1 card left. So the question is here now.
I see.
Lotus Petal on Underwater. Can Lotus Petal count for the Emry affinity cost and for mana? And the answer is yes, it can. Here's a mill of 4 cards for the Emry. And okay, question. Yeah, so I'm not. I mean, I'm not a judge. I'm knowledgeable about how interactions are resolved, not necessarily about the exact reasoning behind them. So I can tell you that this is what happened. Mhm. Yeah. So the cost is confirmed before the cost is paid, and so that's why the Lotus Petal can account for both parts.
No, you learned that back in Mirrodin, whether you could use your chromatic sphere to pay for
Mhm.
Thoughtcast while still having it count for
The blue.
affinity.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Now with Emry gun, yeah, it's pretty much all over.
I
And it
mean,
looks like Issac at 6-0 is already locked for the top 8 then, right?
yeah, he should be. There's a draw, Thoughtcast drawn. So Warren, yeah, with one blue source in play on about turn 5, that's not much to show for your opening hand here and what all you've done in the game.
And it looks like that, yeah, there's a big dragon. Once again, I'm just call me the dragon speaker, whatever. Legacy games these days, they end with big dragons. It's a
Mhm.
double dragon. Let's do it. Sure. Overkill deluxe. Yeah. Okay. Gain
All
control of all
right.
dragons, maybe? No?
Yeah.
Okay, GG.
All right. Well, that one is done. Isaac Bullwinkle advances to 6-0. Would be capable of double drawing from here. Could play for seeding, but he is in top 8 if he wants to be. Warren Regni got more work to do. Unfortunate, a bit of misplay there. But if you're watching this later on, pull yourself together. Everybody goes through these things. Everyone has lived through this and does it, and you just have to recover from it and keep going. Anyway, let's go ahead and go into our backup match this round. We believe we have it ready to go. So let's go ahead and jump in there. We have
Oh,
Michael Maka versus Mark Nabors, Sneak and Show, and Monterey Prison. And in the past, go back, middle of the last decade, any legacy event, you're gonna see Sneak and Show all the time. Now it's still present, but it's not as common as it used to be.
yeah. I think Sneak and Show, it's still around because like
Mhm.
the floor of the deck is still pretty high, right?
Yeah.
It's just it's been overshadowed by most other combo decks, at least right now, like the Epic Storm and Doomsday. But it's not
Mhm.
like people would just like, especially in paper, right, outright sell the deck because it still works, right? We see Michael here sitting here at 4-1. So why would you not try it if you have the deck? So
Yeah.
yeah. I think it also like it's one of those decks that has like these dedicated followers of Sneak Show, of Show and Tell and Sneak Attack, and they will play it no matter what. And yeah, sometimes that's just like no feeling like getting Grizzlebrand to play and drawing 14 cards. I can see how this is addictive.
Yeah. No, it's definitely some good stuff with this deck. I looked at the construction a little bit. Omniscience in the sideboard for some of the more troublesome matchups where Caracas and such were bouncing things get annoying. But we're developing here against Monterey Prison. And here we are with Chrome Mox, Den of the Bugbear, and this new-ish red creature that I was unfamiliar with up until recently. Fireflux Squad, I believe, is what got printed there.
Mhm. Yeah. That's a card that we see like in the more aggressive versions of these
Mhm.
mono red decks. But the community is still like is somewhat torn about how to call these decks because there's the very dedicated prison decks and then there's like the very aggressive decks, usually playing like 8 goblins and then Fireflux Squad. Fireflux Squad is kind of cool in the sense that you can, if you have like Goblin Rebel Master or Goblin War Boss, you can
Mhm.
use the tokens they generate
Right.
to sacrifice and then like get a real creature out of that. Ideally, not something like Simian Spirit Guide, but maybe
But
like a Fury.
even if it's a spirit guide, it's still upgrading on the token.
It is, yeah. Even though it's a downgrade on triggering
Yeah,
Goblin
yeah,
Rebel Master on next turn.
yeah.
But yeah,
All right.
a lot of times these games work that way that you just like you run out a bunch of creatures and then you Fury away whichever kind of blockers your opponents can present. Fury not that relevant in this matchup, I would guess. You'd probably like want to get something like a Trini Sphere, especially, which even though they can resolve their show and tell, there's not too much they can do with the extra cards they might draw off Grizzlebrand. But yeah, we will see. I actually need to take a
Ooh.
look at Michael's
Mike,
deck.
Michael's hand has a lot of tools in it. So we're going to see here. Here is a sneak attack, pedal available to activate, and a pass. Okay. So no creature
Yeah,
at the ready. I'll say this: if there's no creature, I don't really like playing the Lotus Petal, as you're telling your opponent you don't have a creature.
Yeah, that's true, but is your opponent really going to act on that anyway? And I
I'm
mean,
not
on the
sure.
other side, if your
Yeah.
opponent plays like, let's say, like technically a Chalice for 0, even though they probably wouldn't do that, or a Trinisphere or something, then you'd rather have that in play. Also, like you're kinda like you could do something like get in Grizzlebrand end of turn. That doesn't really do anything, I guess, because Lotus Petal is going to be gone then. But yeah, we will
All
see.
right, we'll see. So Magus the Moon should not be afraid of attacking into sneak attack mana, so it should just still continue to get in there, and there it goes. Michael down to 12 with
Michael,
quite a
by the
few
way, is
draws.
also playing a very, very straightforward version of this deck. There's no omniscience going on or something. This is
Right.
just 4 show and tell, 4 sneak attack, 4 Lotus Petal, 2 Simeon Spirit Guides, 4 Daze. Like I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna do it hard. And I'm not gonna like tinker. Oh, we have like 4
Oh my
show and
goodness!
tell in it.
Wow, yes he does.
Oh dear.
Quads show and tell, or 4 twin show and tell if you were around yesterday.
If we can find any kind of
4
actually,
pair.
we don't even need like payoffs, right? We already have sneak attack in play.
Yeah, no, all we need is a creature. Yeah, 4 pair show and tell is not gonna do it. Griselbrand would still work. Griselbrand as a blocker here would be just fine.
What's your favorite creature? Simeon Spirit Guide.
Well, there's an Emrakul. That is not as good of a blocker.
We have a lot of stuff that I guess we just like keep the creatures around, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, we can't really get rid of the Chalice.
I definitely don't get rid of unless.
Well, maybe you have to. Maybe you have
Honestly,
to.
though,
Maybe
well,
4,
if you
5.
keep if you get rid of the Chalice, then you can kill in 2 swings. Actually, what is the other one? The other one I think is
So
a Low
Michael's
Pressure
at
Giant.
6. Michael's at 6 right now, I believe. So
Oh, it
if
has 12.
I know, but I think 6 came across last turn.
Okay, then it's pretty easy, right? Then we
Yeah,
just like keep 6 in play and probably win.
I think it's just over. I could be wrong, but I believe Michael's at 6.
But either way, even if he's at 12, like this is the exact right thing to do. You keep 6 power in play and the
Yeah,
Chalice in 1.
exactly.
Oh, okay, we're gonna try. Worth it.
Brainstorm into a Chalice countered. Yep, and there you go. Okay, so Mark does pick up game 1. Okay, we do a deck list. Let's go ahead and take a look and see what Julian thinks of as a pretty stock Stinging Show list and Mark Nabors Monterey Prison deck, which you can see here. So this certainly has gotten some new cards in the last couple of years, as the Furies you mentioned and the Fireflux squads. Also Fable the Mirror Breaker. Lots of new toys running around this. But basically, the main elements of the deck are disrupt you somewhat with Chalice, Blood Moon, Trinisphere, and then play not overcosted creatures that can put on quite a hurting if left unchecked. And the idea is that the Blood Moon and Chalice combination will let them survive unimpeded and get in for big amounts of damage.
Yeah, you know what? We're just like here to tap out every single turn, put stuff onto the board, and hope it's going to be good enough. And I'm probably underselling it because sequencing is still pretty important for the stack. It's not like I guess a stupid aggro deck. I kind of like I don't know. I have a soft spot for these decks ever since back then when they were called like Dragon Stompy. From the sideboard, there's probably not too much to do other than the 2 blasts that we got. I can see a Trinisphere. And I don't know if that gun is going to be good enough. You won't be able to bounce Emrakul. And yes, you could bounce Griselbrand. You know,
Yeah.
doesn't exactly sound exciting to me.
It's not great. Right. I agree. All right. So let's go ahead and look at Michael Maka's Sneaking Show deck. So you can see here, this deck, unlike a lot of these decks, this deck could have been played 8 years ago. No problem.
Yeah, this is pretty much the same deck as it was back then. What do we have here? Like, what could we use? I guess Pyroclasm would be a really nice thing to bring in. Kills half of the board. Meltdown to get rid of. Yeah, Meltdown could be a thing, especially if you want to side something out.
Anything that kills Chalice is probably decent here.
You know, but there's also like the other school of thought. There's the school of thought is I'm gonna have the most dedicated combo deck here. I don't dilute it too much. I literally only bring in maybe. Actually, was I talking about Pyroblasts?
No, you said Pyroclasm.
That was the other deck. That was the other deck. Yeah, true. So maybe we don't bring anything really. Maybe the 2 Pyroclasms. and then just like do our thing, because this deck is super turbocharged to just like do its thing as quickly as possible, and not like toy around with like 3-card combos of like, show and tell omniscience into something,
Right.
which is usually like a way to circumvent hate bears, or like,
So I'm sure if Michael had access to the sideboard, the deck list, and we can go ahead and go back down to the table and start game 2. If Michael knew Mark's list, that meltdown would come in, because you just got to have an answer to the ensnaring bridge. You don't want to just be dead if it resolves, and I don't think there's anything else that can answer it.
I see what you're saying, yeah. And that's where we go back to the idea of it's not quite clear how you're supposed to build these red stompy decks these days, because a lot of them don't play bridge anymore. There's like the super, like the ones that have been most successful lately are the super aggressive ones that don't play bridge, that barely play any planeswalkers at all. And then there's the other school of thought, which plays like, say, 7 or 8 planeswalkers and like up to 3 bridges. And they overlap like in their hate pieces, right? Even though like both usually don't play Trinisphere anymore, so maybe Michael would even like expect that. But there's also like not too much you can do about Trinisphere really, except for like try to melt down it for 4, which is
I mean, Michael can rely on counter magic also to deal with something like that, and he does have some in his hand.
I think we see a meltdown there, yeah.
Yeah, so we do look at the ponder, and the meltdown did come in, which I think is just as kind of a safe bet. In an ideal world, you get under Chalice, you get under Trinisphere, you cast your cantrip, then you show and tell something and just go to town. But games don't always play out like that, and it is nice to have an answer.
Yeah. You know what I actually want to do if I'm Michael? I literally just want to show and tell an Emrakul into play, and not worry about anything else. I mean, of course, that's what you want to do in many matchups, but especially in this matchup, unless you think that there's going to be bridge, of course, which, like we said, could be a thing. And we know it's not, but could be. And yeah, then just do the thing. Because right now, I guess Show and Tell is going to put in a Trinisphere from Mark's end, potentially. Oh, we're going to cast turn 1 Trinisphere, which is kind of like a Time Walk if it resolves.
Wow. Okay, there you go. So that is going to get dazed. Oh,
we pay.
wow.
I have the monkey.
And then forced. Lots of resources getting spent here on turn 1 on both players.
So I think we saw an Emrakul in Michael's hand, right? We know about the land, about an Emrakul. Let's see if there's going to be a show and tell to go with it as well.
So this cost 2 Spirit Guides and the Trinisphere for Mark, and it costs Daze, Force, Brainstorm for Michael. So even on resources expended, although Michael did also give up a land drop.
Oh, and it looks like Mark is not going to be able to do anything. I would even consider meltdowning that Mox. I'm very aggressive with that kind of stuff. If I had a red mana and there was a meltdown in my hand, I think I would just like straight go after the Mox. But it looks like we don't have a red mana source.
That would explain why the Michael felt the need to keep that transfer off the board, as he didn't have lands to develop, and I'm not sure he's got lands yet. We'll see.
I think he found a Scalding Tarn, a Lotus Petal, and a Grizzlebrand.
Oh, well, that's excellent, because he definitely needs a fetch land, because he's flooded on big guys at this point.
Let's get rid of one of the big guys, and probably the Lotus Petal even. Yeah, now that you've seen that Mark didn't make a land drop and didn't cast anything, I think I'm going very hard after the Chrome Mox.
Okay, well, let's see if Michael agrees with you. Seems possible. What kind of world are we living in these days, where these mono red decks are fighting counter wars with Spirit Guides to pay for Dazes? Nice work. And yep, there it is. Meltdown takes out the Mox.
Yeah, this is the Shattering Spree mode. Just like pay 1 mana, destroy 1 artifact. Yeah. Load the mana, sure.
Yeah, I don't know that there's anything getting played here off of that, but okay.
Yeah, we really want to draw Ancient Tomb now.
Yeah, that would be excellent. Blood Moon, not the answer. So both players a little short on mana here.
Oh, and it looks like we actually brought in Omniscience. Yeah, and that's
really,
yeah. What is this?
Interesting.
Oh, that's a blast, probably.
Yeah, it has to be. I don't recognize that card, but it has to be a blast. So I'm I'm a little surprised Omniscience came in.
I mean, I guess. No, it's not really a way to beat Bridge because you still don't get past it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no alternate combo win in Michael Maka's Sneaking Show deck.
I guess you could argue that once you have Omniscience and Grizzlebrand, you will eventually get past the bridge. Whereas Grizzlebrand alone might not get past the bridge. I'm not sure.
I don't know. I don't know what that.
I mean, basically because you get to cast all your cantrips that you then draw off the Grizzlebrand, whereas otherwise you might need to pass the turn, and maybe that's gonna kill you or something. I'm not sure.
Okay, so Chalice back on there, and Michael just waiting to draw another enabler here for his big creatures. Mark looking for mana sources here. There we go. Rabble Master. There's a Daze. It can be a hard cast.
That just happens. No more monkeys. But next turn there's going to be a war boss. And doesn't do anything. We pass the turn again.
Yeah, the City Traders was a big draw here.
Oh no, look at this. So we can actually get the war boss down, and next turn we can make the Fireflag squad. Oh, this is so good for us. Well, I say us, but I use us for the active player most of the time.
I actually don't know if we can. I think the land that was drawn was Den of the Bugbear, which
that comes to play tap.
If there's more than two, if there's if there's already 2 land in play.
Yeah, you got a good point. Okay, so I guess in that case we're just gonna rip a mountain from the top or something.
Okay, we'll see what happens.
Or maybe another monkey. That will also do it.
But it's Legion Warboss by itself. I mean, it's a pretty significant clock. I mean, it just comes across for 1 on the first turn, but it goes, I think it's 1 and then attacks for 5 the next turn. And then proceed. And Michael just has nothing going on.
Yeah, we got 2 Omniscience in play by now. We got a bunch of payoff cards, right? Every show and tell, every sneak attack, but those are really the only ones. Sure.
This is going to be a redundant Chalice, maybe? Which is unnecessary, but there's no way for Mark to know that.
I mean, there's also a world where you try to get as many permanents as possible into play, just in case like an Emrakul hits you.
Yeah, you're right.
As long as you're like 16 plus, you can do that.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. As long as you're above 15, excess permanents do help. I mean, Chalice on 0 would cut off Lotus Petal from Michael, but it doesn't look like Michael is, like, from Mark's perspective, it doesn't look like Michael is stuck on mana. He's stuck on, he's drawing cantrips, he's drawing creatures, he hasn't drawn enablers. There's a Blood Moon. There's a Chalice on 0.
Yeah. I like it.
Yeah, there's an attack. One of these goblins will
get
a little smarter.
Now, Mark also makes it so that if Michael actually finds a show and tell and happens to be on a sneak attack, or actually he would have cast sneak attack last turn. So yeah, he's not really cutting off that line because that line already existed and Michael didn't make use of it. Okay, pass the turn again. And how much damage is this going to be? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, Michael's dead in 2 swings.
Yeah, it increases by 2 a turn. Although City Traders might allow.
Oh, look at this.
More.
I think is that lethal? That does have haste, right?
Is that the Fire Squad? Yeah, it does have haste. Yeah, 4/3 haste, and it'll increase the size of one of the tokens. So this is 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then swap a token out.
Yeah, whatever it's gonna be at least a 2/2.
Yeah, it's not gonna get smaller. Another squad.
That's sweet.
8, 10, 12. That's 14. That will do it. And Mark Nabors will defeat Michael Maka, who just couldn't get anything going. And he shows the hand there. Emrakul and 2 Omniscience and a Grizzlebrand at the end, alongside a couple lands. So yeah, just know that 1 Pyroblast taking down the show and tell, and that was enough.